Hey everybody, it's your friend and your guy Gardiner, and there was a bunch of people who really wanted to see me talk about GIMP 3's release, and you know what? I'm happy to oblige, because this is a pretty substantial and interesting release here. So, without further ado, let's look at the changelog that they provided. So there's a pretty substantial release for GIMP 3. This has been 7 years of active development, which is just bananas to think about. 7 years ago, I was in a very different place in my life. They were working on updating the GUI library, and they ended up adding a bunch of features, enhancements, and usability improvements. So let's talk about the user interface stuff first. So they're now using GTK3, which is really nice. If we go into the preferences here, you can see that the preferences dialog is now using GTK3 widgets. It's how you have this nice title bar here. There's a nice transition between these options containers here. And also I have a 4K display and everything is sized appropriately, where if I opened GIMP 2.10 on or 2.11 on this display, these buttons were minuscule, the text was unreadable. I actually am not a huge fan of 4K displays. They add an extra layer of complexity to a setup. I kind of just want to go back to 1080p, honestly. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. That's me shaking my old man fist at the clouds and yelling. So I wanted to go over like some of the other features here. One thing that they've added is the ability to style your extension using CSS. I know a lot of people complain about HTML and CSS and blah blah blah, but like when you like dig down into CSS and you learn how it actually works, CSS really is the best way to style an application. It is so powerful, and I don't know, I just love CSS. I've used other like frameworks and toolkits, and I just think CSS is the best. All right, so one of the first things that I want to talk about is non-destructive editing. So if we come down here and we scroll down to our pasted layer. So if we go into filter and we go down here to blur and hit Gaussian blur, we can actually adjust our parameters here, right? The size of the blur and what have you. And if we untick this box and hit OK, now you can see there's a little FX option here. And we can double click on this, and that allows us to actually modify the parameters of this blur effect, which is called non-destructive editing. And a lot of other editing software, like photo editing suites, have non-destructive editing and have had them for a long time. This is a really good step forward for GIMP because this did not exist in any way, shape, or form. And it is excellent to see. Now, there are a few limitations to this. There are some effects that you could add here that don't actually apply like a non-destructive filter, but many of the blurs do. Let's see if, I don't know about noise. Yeah, so you can add like noise filters, and as long as this merge filter isn't ticked, then it won't apply it to the image directly. It'll add it as an effect to the layer, which is really nice. Now, of course, if you hit this button, it will merge all of the filters down and apply them directly as a rastered effect, a destructive effect. The other thing that you can do with this is you can go in here and add, you know, let's just say a Gaussian blur, right? Whatever. And we don't want merge filter, so we hit OK. And then if we click on this, you should be able to move these around. So now you can see that the noise is being applied after the Gaussian blur. Now, this is a little bit unintuitive to my sensibilities here, because like I understand like stacking from the bottom up, and that's how this the layers are oriented as well, but like intuitively my sensibility would say that you go from top down from the first, like it's a list of effects that are applied from the top down. That's just how my intuition would expect this panel to work. I don't know. It would be the opposite of how this panel works, but like intuitively, I would expect that the Gaussian blur would be applied first, and then the HSV would be applied over it. But that's not how it works here. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think that that is unintuitive as well. I'd love to hear your take. The other weirdness is if we go in here and add a like an emboss effect. So that gets added to the top here, which I find interesting as well. Yeah. And you can also arbitrarily enable or disable these. I actually really like this. My little nitpicks aside, I think that this is pretty cool. Now, the question is, can we create a new group and apply effects to the group itself? And the way we'll test this is we'll just add this here. And we're going to go filter, blur, pixelate. Sweet. Fancy Moses. It actually works. Let's actually do this. Let's go to noise, and we'll add some noise over top. And that does get applied. Let's go. Yeah, that's really cool that you can add noise over top. Yeah, so if I take this out, it's not going to be applied to the layer underneath. It's just applied to the group, which makes sense. But it would be really nice to have something that exists in a few other image editing tools. Something like an effect layer. It's a non-destructive layer that you can apply effects to, and it affects everything underneath that layer. And you can scope it within groups and stuff. That's a really nifty feature that saves a lot of time in certain scenarios. So this is very cool. This is a huge leap forward for GIMP. It makes it competitive again with something like Photoshop or something like Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo is now actually my favorite image editing tool, but I don't use it because I run Linux most of the time, and I don't use my copy anymore. This also works with colors though. If we go over here to color and we go to levels, you can see that we can adjust the levels of our image here. We can say, boom. That's wild. I love that. Being able to do this makes a whole lot of sense. And you can apply it to groups instead of individual layers, which is also very, very exciting. There's also the ability to add filters just by hitting the / on your keyboard and typing in blur. And you can come in here and we could add a box blur. And that's just going to apply to the border here because that's the layer we're on. But that's really cool too. So you don't have to go traipsing through menus in order to find the effect you want. But we can hit HSV noise and we can mess with that. And that's really cool. I just learned about the search feature. I don't know if this search feature is actually new to GIMP 3, but the fact that you can do this, you know, I prefer to not take my hands off the keyboard as much as possible. Minimizing mouse usage is a time save. All right, this is a big one, and this is one that I've been using in the beta for a while. You can now select multiple layers at once. You can hold Shift and select another layer. Let's click on this one. This is like an arrow, and let's what is this? Oh yeah, that was from my OpenRA. So you can actually select multiple layers here, and then you have to move the selected layers. But now you can move the selected layers together. And if you click on a group, you can actually move the group together if you say move selected layers. If you don't do this though, it's going, even if you have this group selected, if you have pick a layer or guide, it's going to grab the first non-transparent pixel it finds from top to bottom in your layer stack, and that's what it's going to move. This is so nice. I just leave this setting here because this setting is just, it's the only one that makes sense to me. The only time I ever switch back is if I have like guides guides that I want to move, because if you have this selected, you can't move your guides. You're always going to move, even if you're not clicking on it, which I find a little unintuitive, but whatever. Yeah, so let's get rid of that. And I just love this. This has been a game changer for me, because it used to be that there was, instead of this locking layer here, or this locking attribute, where locking would, locking can prevent all kinds of different things now. It used to be a chain, and you would link layers together and then you could move them. And that was so unintuitive. It was so bad. This is so much better. And of course I have the wrong thing set, the wrong mode. Layer locking. So if we wanted to, we could come in here and we could say that we want to lock the pixels so they can't change. We want to lock the size and position. We want to lock the visibility, or we want to lock the alpha channel. These are very useful. I haven't gotten used to using them yet, so at this point, they're still a little obscure to me, but I do like them very much. And I'm definitely going to find uses for those. All right, so here's another game changer. So we have this layer of Tim Sweeney here. And you can see as I click on a layer, there's like this dotted or dashed yellow and black line that appears. And that's the bounds of the layer itself. And that's because each layer has its own resolution, essentially. You can see Tim here is a little bit smaller than my overall image. If I bring him into the middle of the thing, you can see that the layer is slightly smaller than the actual image. I find this incredibly weird that each layer is limited to its own resolution. What if I told you there's an easy way to fix that now? It's true. You can come in here and pick any of these tools, and you can hit expand layers. Let's go like this and just go to, we're gonna layer, crop layers to context. And now you can see that we've eliminated all the empty space. And if I don't have this layer, expand layers set, if I start drawing, you can see that it gets clipped, right? But if I hit expand layers, now all of a sudden it will just add extra space around. Oh no, it crashed on me. Guys, it crashed. Let's restart. It's still pretty new, and I've had GIMP crash on me in the past, especially version 3. There should be an automated reporting option here, guys, that copy this whole thing and paste it to report it to the developers. I don't know if this is why it took 7 years for them to develop this, but like letting people just click automatically report this would help these developers tremendously. And this isn't even restarting GIMP. So oh my gosh, what the hell? I can click right through it. Well, I'm gonna log out.
A few moments later.
All right, I'm back. Another interesting thing here is the ability to edit some of the most common settings, and right off the bat in your welcome screen here. So you can change your language, you can change your font scaling, the overall size of the theme, the icon set, the color scheme. Very, very nice stuff here. And there's even a, if you go to the contribute tab, it'll show your most recent activities here. So we click on this, and it takes us back to where we were, more or less. I did lose some of the stuff I was trying to show you. If we go here to crop layers to content, and then if I grab my pencil and expand, you can see, like, if I start to draw, it will expand the layer by increments of whatever amount. So this is 100. You can change this. Personally, I think that the way that the layer boundaries work is obnoxious, and I have only ever gone out of my way to like do layer to image size, right? Because what that does is it crops the image where it's at. So we've lost his ear and his left shoulder here, where before it's like this. But I would do that because that would mean that I could then draw anywhere inside the layer. But this is really cool because now we can draw pretty much anywhere in the image. And, you know, we don't have what we drew outside the image, but it does expand the layer in there. That is super useful. Another really cool thing about this is there is a setting. If we go into preferences and we go down to tool options, you can see that expand layers is shared between tools. And if you disable this, then each tool will have its own expand layers value set. But I don't know, I just find this super duper cool because this is going to save me a bunch of time. I'm not having to fight the image editor anymore. You know, the image editor is going to behave the way I want and expect. And I like that. I like that a lot. And then there's also, if we go in here and we select this text, we can actually come in here and set it to outline and filled. And now you can see that there's a gray outline around it. Now, this is not really, this doesn't behave the way I would expect it to, honestly. And this leaves a lot to be desired, but thankfully the text styling option up here fills the gap. I was kind of disappointed when I read that they added this feature only to find that this is very limited for what I would use it for. It can't draw outside of the actual text, it looks like. Like if we zoom in here, so we can like pick a color, let's pick red. Now you can see there's a red stroke. But if we change the line width, it only grows inwards. And that is not useful in any way, shape, or form, at least for me and my workflow. Like I don't understand why the outline doesn't exist outside the text, or why it can't be set to be outside the text. You know, you can change the miter and the end cap here, the joint type. You can change it so that there's a pattern, right, which is kind of neat. Line, short dashes, stripes. That's all fine, but it doesn't behave the way I need it to. And I really hope that they are able to expand this into something more useful. And now we get to my favorite new feature. This resolves every pain point that I have with GIMP. My last remaining pain point, I should say. But I have some quibbles that I want to levy with this here. One thing that's been sorely lacking from GIMP is styling of layers. This is a feature that is literally do or die for me. And so the fact that it's here now makes me very, very happy. Now, what am I talking about? Well, in other image editors, you can right click on an image and go to like, there's like it's not a blend mode, but it's like edit layer attributes. You'd click on something like this and it would open a little window like this that would give you the ability to add a stroke around a layer, or a drop shadow, or an embossing, stuff like that. Gradient overlays, color overlays for the non-transparent parts of a layer. That's now here. We can do that. It is under filters. If you go to generic and click text styling, I don't believe you need to have it be a text layer. And then you can just click enable outline. And oh, that didn't work. Oh, I wonder if it's because we need to have this apply the mask. I bet you that's the problem. So let's repeat this. And we go enable outline. Look at that. Okay, so it's really, 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 really lame that you have to apply the mask in order for this to work, because it should just work on not the alpha of the image, but the mask layer. That would be much better. And that should be very simple bitwise operations to do that. So it's really lame that it doesn't work with a mask applied to a layer, but you can come in here and you can pick a stroke color going all around the outside here. Let's make it red. And then we're going to come down here. We don't need that anymore, actually. Let's go here to shadow. Oh, there we go. You have to adjust the opacity. I'm still learning this stuff too, but it's very, very cool. And if we go like this, it'll be on the other side. That's pretty neat. Reduce the radius, and now we get like a more sharp drop shadow. Dude, just the fact that this now exists in here and it's a non-destructive effect is so cool, because now we can open this up, go back in, and adjust the parameters if we want to change things. Now, this seems pretty freaking slow to me, honest, but I mean, this is like version 1.0 of this stuff. You can also add bevels and inner glows. All the features that you would expect are here now. Wow, look at that. All the features that you would expect are now here. All, like, this is like one of the last things that was keeping me from using GIMP full time. And now it's here. We have, these are basically all the features that I miss when I use GIMP, and they're now available. And again, that's under filters. And then you go to generic and text styling. I think they could make this a little bit more generic and also add it to the context menu of the layer, because that's where Photoshop migrants and Affinity Photo migrants are going to be expecting to see that. And if it's not here, they're not going to know what to Google in order to find that it's here under text styling. But yeah, this is so exciting. Adding like subtle drop shadows like that is going to make a huge difference. Now, I can't assume that this is also going to work for layer groups. So let's go to text styling. Let's try it. Outline. Oh my gosh, that's very cool. So we can do it with layers like this as well. I am a huge fan. So if we enable an outline, and we got diamond, we got square edges. So let's actually try something here. Actually, if I go back, color overlay black. Okay. And then let's make a layer. Oh, that's one annoying thing. I talked about this in my video, my news video this week. If you have multiple layers selected and you click the group button, what should happen, and this is like objectively the way this should work. If you have multiple layers selected, you hit this button, all those layers should then be moved into a single group. But what happens is you click this, and for each layer you had selected, it creates a new group. What is that? That is not intuitive behavior at all. Literally, I can't imagine how that would be useful in any scenario. Could be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, but like, I don't know. I just like removing friction as much as I can. And that just seems like the most friction I can possibly imagine. It's stupid. Like, if you've already got all the layers selected, you have to then unselect them, hit the create new group, select them all again, and then move them into that group manually. It's freaking silly, dude. It's so silly. Why? Why does it work that way? I don't know. Okay, now the nice thing about this, guys, watch this. So it used to be that I had to follow this whole convoluted process to get this effect to work. And if I wanted to change the text, I'd have to go through the whole process again after changing the text. But now what I can do, because this is non-destructive and it applies to the layer content, I can just change the text in the text field. And suddenly the stroke and the drop shadow are updated as I type, which will save me so much time. All right, so that's GIMP 3.0. I'm very excited about this, if you can't tell. And I think that this is an enormous step forward for GIMP. This makes it on similar footing, at feature parity with some of the commercial offerings out there. And by golly, am I excited to see where GIMP goes in the future. If you like this video, you gotta go down there and hit that like button. It really helps this show out. You can also subscribe to the show if that's more your speed. Let me know if there's other open source apps that you'd like me to take a look at and give you a run through on, because I'm more than happy to do that. I want to take a moment and thank these patrons over here. These guys make what I do here a reality. If you'd like to help this show grow, get the word out about free software and open source and video games, then consider becoming a patron. There are links in the description, and you can get your name listed over here with these fine folks. All right, that's going to do it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.